What part of Texas?
The McPhersons? Oh, yes. There's several McPhersons, though. Tom, Jeff, and Barbara. But there'll be Billy and Eddie Lou McPherson. They've been there for a long time. My grandparents probably moved there about 6 years ago.
Are they gone to the campus and I'm the school counselor and I'm the district
You guys have a pretty good group of kids, I'm sure.
Yes.
Monica, a nice map of this trip going up to the gateway, and the management of Conway Scenic Railroad is going to ask for your cooperation and compliance with the following rule. And today reflects the best efforts of these craftsmen, as North Conway was up to North Conway. You may have two locomotives at the head of the train again. These are the sisters, or the twins. They're both FP9s. The head engine is 6516, the trailer is 6505. They're both FP9s, they're both 1750 horsepower. And they were both built by General Motors to Conway, and it was completed to Intervale in 1874. Yeah, the real.
Thank you. I'm just going to put everything in here so I won't remember.
Here's Route 16-302, where the Vista is located. It's the State Highway Rest Area. A little bit down grade here, and as you notice, the train is going to go. Passenger train came down through here, and he got stuck. He was stalled in here for 2 or 3 days. The village, not North Conway, but it's Conway Township. Now we're coming up on the East Branch. We're crossing it using a truss bridge. Most of these truss bridges, I haven't looked at them all, but most are built by the Boston Bridge Works. And around the early 1900s, 1914, 1912, so on. That's the East Branch of the Socket, Maine. It's joined by the Ellis River on your left. You look over there between the trees, see the Ellis River coming down? And the Ellis River comes down the side of the east side of Mount Washington. A lot of produce being shipped out. So here's the railroad station right here on your right-hand side. That's the Glen Jackson Railroad Station. It was a very busy place today. They were passing fuel old derelict cars, as you see. There are 3 here. There were 5. And 2 were in the elementary school. And we've crossed over. We're in Bartlett Village. We're blowing for Bartlett Albany Avenue. The highway salt in that building. And it rotted the building and it was torn down. So as you can see, there were more stalls to the left of the building. Now, Conway Scenic Railroad operates here in his milepost 71. And if you'll notice that going through this area, we're going to cross over what they call 4 irons. Brook comes down from Bartlett Haystack Mountain and passes under Route 302 and then under our tracks, and it joined centuries ago. It is in the form of a U. Look, okay, that's the 2nd iron. And you'll notice that the water will be flowing from the left. There's a lot of rocks down there. In summertime, this is you swim on the right-hand side. There's grade crossing here. Keep your lookout. You may see something along the line. We're coming up on a nice spot to take a photograph when the leaves are all in color. They see the background. And so it's a nice picture. Those are generally in color. It's a little early for them over there, but it's a nice place to take a
See the dog?
And he took all her dowry money with him. Well, she was enraged. There's the gorge. It's quite wide, as you can see. And so he came here in 1847 or 1827, and he lived with Abel and Hannah Crawford over here on the right-hand side in the Mount Crawford house. Named the cliffs up here Frankenstein Cliff in honor of his friend. And then when the railroad came through here, the tracks stopped in 1898, I think it was. He bought the rights for $41,500 to clear-cut this area up in the Saco Valley. And that's when the little town started to disintegrate. In 1895, they started running excursions on Nancy and Bemis and Willie. It was quite a storm. It went right across northern New York and eastern Ontario and Quebec and northern New England. It's only about a mile and a half in from this. There's a trailhead there. And the building we're passing by is privately owned, and a purchase was made for the White Mountain National Forest. The forest today is over 773,000 some odd acres. We're slowing down now for the entrance to Frankenstein Trestle. We're going to go over it rather slowly to give you an opportunity to look up and down and around and so on and so forth. You cannot see the highway or the river down on the right due to foliage. You will see two small buildings, one very small, which is a ranger station with a ranger in there giving out information when necessary. The next buildings on the right will be the restrooms that were constructed to accommodate the hikers that pass underneath here. There are thousands of hikers. There's a lot of trails crisscross. It's clear enough that you could see giant stairs there on Stair Mountain. This was named by Dr. Bemis. 4 feet above ground level. And the first train came over here in June of 1875. Rock areas, you can look out the window and you'll see perpendicular lines up and down. And you'll see from here on up that the track has been laid out on a shelf. You can just picture the shelf in a hotel. Passenger train flag station, and a water stop for the steam locomotives, and a train order station, and a lot of water in it. Oh yeah, look way up in there, way up in the back. You can see it coming down. Oh boy, it's real pretty, way in the back. Well, it wasn't long after that Abel Crawford came over from Gild's grave, and they started constructing inns to accommodate a bridge. This is another bridge that's constructed by the P&O. It's 240 feet long, but it is. The east one's made of iron, and it opened in 75, but they rebuilt it again in 19. It came from Bartlett or from North Conway, with the exception of the last girl. The last girl was born without the benefit of a doctor, and so she named the girl Enola. Rather, they would have to go forward and stop the train before it got to that obstruction. I looked from a highway. And it was 2 hired hands that all perished in that landslide. Coming to another bridge called the Girders Bridge. Well, in the construction of the railroad here, look at the flume cascade. Is pretty, very pretty. It's over here on the right hand side. That's the flume cascade. Where you going, buddy? 84. Coming up, Crawford is milepost 85. Overhead, temporary, to prevent falling rock from injuring the workmen. And they left this here later on to prevent snow slides. Here we're going in through this area now. And then it was finally removed. But this was quite an accomplishment going through this rock area. As you can see, it was quite thick. And the gateway, and you look high to the right, you'll be looking up the trunk of Elephant Head Rock by Ethan Allen Crawford. It was constructed right here between Elephant Head Rock and Saco Lake. 1,356 feet in order to get up here. We're coming down stromes. We're going to stop the train here at an elevated wooden platform for the coaches to get off, and those at the first class, I believe, can get off right here. They have more. Hike. This is maintained by the Appalachian Mountain Club. And we are at the height of land here, approximately 2,000 feet above sea level. And from here on to Fabians, we are going to go downhill to see Ammonoosuc Lake. Ammonoosuc Lake was used by the hotel there on your right-hand side, and it crossed the railroad tracks and it went up another trail which was called the families. They had their own railroad cars, and they used to have their cars towed to a destination. Hotels up here. That was the Mount Pleasant House. The Mount Pleasant House, that was built in 1876 by John Levitt, and then he sold it to, and so that's the story on the Mount Washington Hotel. But the mountain itself, it's surrounded by a golf course, and riding and walking trails, and stables, and they had. We're crossing Route 302 here. Now there were two crossings here when the Boston conquered Montreal came up, the Fabian Station. Now we're going to go into the restaurant. If you decide to go anyway, not as good as it is at Crawford. In order to get off the train, you've got to walk down the steps of the car, then onto a too easy to walk around. And since you're only going to be here 20 minutes, well, why bother? There to the south was up a little bit further up with that storage up there. White Mountain House was directly ahead of us, and the area up above was the railroad center up here. They even had a large.
Wake up. Are you awake?
Yeah, I would go.
Food. I want his with napkin. There's food. We can buy food on it. That's what they
Hey, getting a good look at the Joe Stickney Episcopal Chapel. It's a nice stone building.
Come here, please. Mom.
Autumn colors. A combination of warm and sunny days, cool but not freezing nights. Presume, however, that the water is still as fresh as once renowned, but much. Viles was an Englishman who came to the White Mountains. Perhaps they would sample some of the specially brewed beer that he was brewing out of hops and roots that grew alongside his dwelling in nearby Twin Mountain. He died in 1912, and he is laid to rest in a small cemetery in Whitefield. English Jack, in his early age, was a sailor who was sailing various ships, was shipwrecked a few times. The last time was down in the Caribbean. And he lived with, there were 3 other sailors. And of the 4, he was the only one that ever returned to England. Got some color over on the right. Was over there. He constructed it, picked up discarded boards, and that'll be alongside the big pine in a U shape. And this was done centuries ago, of course. In. And he moved in the fall of 1825. In the summer of 1826, it proved exceptionally dry in Crawford Notch. There were dozens of landslides that had denuded the hills and the crops, and then the avalanche began. And first led Willie as to thinking whether he should stay here or not. But it was quite a task to move left it, and they would have been better off had they stayed in there. Mr. Pendexter went down to party up, and it was on a Thursday that they found Sam, his wife, 2 children, and the 2 hired hands. The 3 of the girls had never been to a restaurant, and they are buried in a... Well, the building remained empty for a number of years, and as I mentioned, Pendexter came down, and it was a desolate and savage spot, and so they wouldn't stay there or come back again. So he and Horace Fabian had constructed the Fabian house up there and said it would be a great place to ruin much of Crawford's farmland. Took his new sawmill and washed it downstream. And we've still got lots of hot chocolate and coffee and hot dogs. That you could take this book home, put it on your library shelf at home. It's an interesting book. They got to the 4th car and the train's... Compared to yesterday, oh boy. Mount Resolution is behind that, and Stair Mountain is the one that has the giant stairs on it. They're all named by Dr. Bemis, who was Lord of the Manor here at the time. You see some new cement work on the end of the bridge here. It's they rebuilt this bridge 20 years after it was originally. Supposed to be the tallest falls in the state of New Hampshire. Of course, if the water is quite low, you see, when the settlers first came over here, changed at some point in time. She changed it to the Inn Unique. So turn to the left. Well, this is where the runaway train left the track. And George Morey was the young George Morey who witnessed the accident here. Car, I'm going to stay right where I am. You come here and match it up, and I'll give you a little something to remember. Painted some way or another, and they started. This was along the Sawyer River and the Saco River. Sawyer River Logging Railroad. The sawmill was about 2 miles to the right of us here along the Sawyer River, and this was a sawmill. The first one burned down, but the second one was pretty good size. Fillmore itself, they had an engine house there, and they had a company store, a church, and school. And there were a number. They went from 1870 till 1936, I think it was. But that isn't so, because there was a terrific storm here, and the lumber harvested at the time, and so the railroad actually stopped running in 1927 or 1928. And then it was in 1935 that the 1,000 acres of Livermore. And it was the following year. The first class went great. Now we go to the coach.
Oh, no.
That's 40111-3. Then we have 39,899,0155-2. 40,000.
I just want a picture you know we're going to raise. I don't think so, because it's going to say.
So that's basically, you know, just cancel security, like you're walking in. Something happens to you.
The other train they had, yeah, they're opening up this open aircraft on this train.
Just to kind of get up that way. But you could extend it. I mean, in a building, like this.
And that doesn't include taxes, vehicle taxes.
See, Alabama's artificially but we sales tax people to death. That's everything. The big high fructose corn syrup people. They don't tell you we're bringing you diabetes. We're bringing you cancer. Or cancer. We're bringing you ethanol. Yes, they can do that. They can get it eventually.
I know.
It's hard to get hydro around here because you don't have that much land. Yeah, so much land.
Didn't you say we passed it? Yeah, we came right to home.
You guys are sleeping.
Did we pass her house?
We wouldn't want it to be entirely circular because it starts No. It starts flat and then it goes up and then it goes flat for a landing. It's about 4 feet. Yeah, but you're on the railing and the legs are there the whole way. Even the legs is on the legs.
Used to work for the ball.
Here's the entrance to the campground.
Did you see that?
and we're going to cross over the Ellis River together from here on down to north, and 302 will continue on to Portland, Maine. These guys were rowdies. They were looking for trouble. They approached the Indian Maiden's canoe, and when they made that statement, why, they capsized the Indian's canoe and threw the Indian into the water, of course. She swam to the river's edge, and he commanded the Saco River to take the... there's a few weather instruments. You see them right there? And then the building is in the background. That is an operation called ground winds. They are checking the winds aloft. They can find out the direction and the speed of it's going to develop. They can do it real accurately. And if this person... Window closed, it would help the train crew in closing up the train for the night. Now, you do have time to walk around the yard and look at memorabilia if they'd like to do that. And let's see, Sunday Northern Model Railroad. Turn to your friend with a smile.
Sorry.
Do you feel that it's all worth a while? Hey.